Mr. Chairman, the meeting is live now whenever it hits 6:30.
Thank you, Lauren. And it is 6:30. Before I call the meeting to order, I have a short statement. I wanted to thank each of you for your patience over the last few months as we have worked through these discussions regarding our newly adopted rules and changes. With few exemptions, we've maintained our decorum and addressed the issues without getting personal. Now that we are done with the most recent changes, I hope we are able to move on and focus on the county business that is most pertinent. As much as possible, I've tried to remain impartial from the chair and stepping down when necessary. I want to thank Commissioner Rubley for his help when he has been needed to take the chair. And I also want to thank our parliamentarian, Commissioner Stotts, for only exercising his authority when absolutely necessary. Although there have been many times he could have recognized and corrected issues with our process, he has exercised grace when possible. Let the commissioners work through motions and discussions. That is the reason I recommended him and appreciate your vote to retain him as parliamentarian. I, like most of us, look forward to the day we can meet in person and resume some form of normalcy. In the meantime, please be polite, know and observe the rules of order, and don't let personal differences interfere with our process. And with that, I call this meeting to order. Ms. Scott, will you call the roll, please? I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and do the invocation, and that will be Commissioner Scott Rubley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's all pray. Lord, we come to you tonight, and we thank you for all the blessings that you give us through each and every day. We thank you for the opportunity to serve the community as we do. And we pray tonight, Lord, that you would just help each and every one of us to make decisions, good, responsible decisions that would glorify you. We pray that you just touch those around the community that are sick with the pandemic and otherwise. We thank you for taking care of us through this weather and all these situations. And once again, we pray that you just be with us tonight and help us to make good decisions that will bring honor to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To
the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And at this time, Lisa, call the roll, please.
Michael Bell.
Here.
Carl D.
Here.
Carl E. Bolden.
Here.
Carleen Brown.
Here.
David Dunlap.
Here.
Randy England.
Here.
Deborah Evans.
Here.
Steve Glenn.
Here.
Stephen Helton.
Here.
Robert Hennessy.
Here.
Brad Hillis.
Here.
Ron Lee.
Here.
Gary Martin.
Here.
Dan Owens.
Here.
Casey Owens.
Here.
Gary Pray.
Here.
Christy Ross. Christy Ross.
Here.
Scott Rubley.
Here.
Tommy Savage.
Here.
Tyrone Spartman.
Here.
Joseph Stotts.
Here.
Philip Stout.
Here.
Cole Taylor.
Here.
Blaine Wilson.
Here.
24 present.
Thank you. Next item is the adoption of the docket.
Mr. Chairperson, if I may, this
Yes,
is Commissioner
Mr.
Robert Hennessy. I'd like to make a motion to amend the docket. It would be item 7, immediately following the amendment GP FY 20-21-5, and introduce a motion to rescind State Senator Janice Bowling's Bill SP 1510. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, we need a motion and a second before that is introduced.
Yes, that is correct.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner
do we,
Bell.
do we not need a motion to accept this format under the governor's rules?
Yes, we do that also.
I'll make that motion.
Second, Commissioner Stotts.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Bell. We have a second from Commissioner Stotts to accept the Zoom format for our commission meeting. Does anybody want to speak to that motion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you. That motion passes. And now back to the adoption of the docket.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to approve the docket.
Second, Commissioner
I'll
Helton.
second it.
We have a second from Commissioner Helton. And I believe Commissioner Hennessy wants to speak to that motion.
Yes, sir. If I may make a motion to amend the docket under new business. As I explained before, an introduction of a motion to rescind State Senator Janice Bowen's bill SP 1510 abolishing early voting. And just put that in item 7, immediately following amendment GP FY 20-21-5. Thank you.
Second, Commissioner Brown.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Hennessy and we have a second from Commissioner Brown to move below item number 7, rescind Janice Boland's SD 1510. I believe if that's what you said, Commissioner Hennessy, to the resolution that she has to abolish early voting.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Does anybody want to speak to that motion?
Mr. Chairman, clarify, will that become item 7?
Let's see. No, it will actually be number 8. It will be after number 7.
Thank you.
That would be number 8 then. Thank you, Mr. Rubley.
Yes. Anyone else want to speak to that motion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Now back to the original motion. We have a motion to accept the docket and we have a second.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Helton.
Yes.
It was my understanding that we would be approving the jail build out tonight, and I'm not seeing that on the docket. I did see where it went through budget finance. I didn't know if that was something that needed to be added to the docket. I know it went through committee, and but I was not at the financial management meeting. I'm not sure where we're at with that.
I would need a motion to do that if that would be the will of someone.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Brown.
it's my understanding that that has already gone through financial management, approved to award the bid, and the bid has been, Mr. Hill, who is our engineer, representative of that project, has already begun discussions with the selected bidder, and this was done after it went through safety committee and building and grounds committee, and then financial management. So that bid is already in process. I don't know if the documents have been all returned and the bid bonds filed, all those details, but the whole process has already been completed. It doesn't have to come back before us because it was in the budget approved earlier. And it's a budget item. And now the last thing was for the bid to go through financial management, and it was awarded.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Rubley,
Commissioner Rubley.
permission to speak, please. If you wouldn't mind recognizing the finance director, Justin could probably clear that up a little bit if Justin would explain.
Yes, Director Cotton, could you address that?
Sure thing. The reason it wasn't put on the agenda for the docket was that the build out and the program expansion were both items on the plan of action as laid out by CCP. Back when we issued the bond and the appropriation memo in March of 2019. So it has been nearly 2 years, and we did appropriate $1 million for items that were on that plan of action. So that's why it was not added to the agenda.
Speaking as District 4 Commissioner briefly, I do remember that we did vote to approve some purchases that were made out of that, I believe, at some point, and then maybe that's where some of the questions have come up.
Mr. Chairman, if I could be recognized to speak.
Yes, Commissioner Stotts.
After listening to what Mr. Cotton just mentioned, it seems to me like it would only make sense that if, based upon what you just mentioned as well, that if those did go through committee, that we would still need to retain vote on said item and the build out itself, if it was an item that made it out of committee. But again, I'm just kind of throwing that out there.
Anyone else want to speak to that?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, Commissioner Ross.
could we get legal to weigh in on this, please?
Yes, Mr. Bratcher, could you help us out with this?
Good evening. Yes, as Mr. Cotton mentioned earlier, this was on quite a bit of an older vote already, as well as an appropriation resolution. Because that has already happened, the only remaining activity that's required under the 81 Act is the bid award by the Financial Management Committee. There's not a necessity to have the full commission vote again after the appropriation's already been put through.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I thank you for following up on this. I appreciate the information.
You're welcome. Anyone else want to speak to this? All right, so are we back on the original motion to accept the docket with the second? Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor of accepting the docket with the changes that were voted through, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we've adopted our docket. Next, the next item is reading of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, we dispense with reading the minutes and accept them as presented.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Commissioner.
Helton, second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner England and a second from Commissioner Helton to approve the minutes as written and not read the minutes through. Is there any discussion on that? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next item is public comment. I do not know of any. Executive Haley, do you know of any public comments?
None was requested from my office, so no.
All right, thank you. And next up, Executive Haley, if you would, special recognition.
Yes, during each commission meeting, we try to recognize those individuals who have given outstanding service to our county or to our operations in some way. And as you know, and just discussed about the jail build out as part of our plan of action, I did have Commissioner Parker, Department of Corrections Commissioner, on my BLTV show today, who sang our praises for the accomplishments we've had at the jail. And there's going to be a lot of programs coming down from the state that are going to be either mandated or funded through various operations. So when we began our basically journey through the jail to do some of the correction that needed to be done, one of the things that we knew was important was to reduce recidivism and to introduce programs. So we wrote several grants, and we did a 3-star grant that was approved for the Snap-on tools instruction at the jail. And so Commissioner England worked very hard, not only to help secure the same kind of program at the high school, but also at TCAT. And through a partnership with Workforce Development and several grants in TCAT, we were able to employ Russell Veach, to be our Snap-on Tools instructor at the jail. He can speak here shortly because I think he's on the Zoom meeting, but I do want to give him a shout out for the exceptional service that he's given to the county through his instruction of the Snap-on Tools certification program that's been a big part of our programming, along with the HiSet GED program and soon to be, we hope, virtual welding as well. So I do want to recognize Russell Beach for his efforts. And Russell, do you want to say something or contribute to the conversation here about what you've been doing and how many people have gone through the program?
Yes, sir. First off, I'd like to thank everybody for this recognition. It's really quite a thing for me. But we had a hard time getting this program off the ground. As you know, we had the COVID and, it slowed us down quite a bit, but we finally got going. And since we started, we have had 36 students enrolled. And out of the 36, 28 have completed with a total of 154 certificates being issued. Now that gives us a 78% completion rate. That's not bad, but I'd like to see it a little bit better. We could do a lot. The biggest problem we have with the students that I'm having is the ability or the disability of reading. We have several that are very bright, but the ones that with the reading disabilities or dyslexic, whatever, if I read the questions to them or read something to them, they can understand it, give me an answer, but just looking at it, they don't understand. So there is a big gap in education and in the disability programs that we have. I'd like to see more computers with the ability to use headsets. The computer we have out there do not recognize the headphones when you plug them in. And that has helped because we do have one computer that does do that. And that has helped immensely. Most of these guys are anxious to get out and do something with their lives. We have had one success that's been tracked. He was in the very first class. He's got out and got a job in the plumbing industry and has been able to advance himself quite well and is looking for another advancement here just within the next few weeks, I think. So this program has been a success and I'd like to see it continued. We do have a few things that make a difference. The classroom is small. We keep our classes small, but there's a reason for that. Of course, with the pandemic, we have the social distancing that we're having to work with. And even with that, we're a little bit crowded in that classroom that we're in because it is narrow. But, we're getting along good. Every one of these guys seem to enjoy the class. They all shake my hand and thank me on the way out. And it's a pleasure to see them get out and do something. And, the look on their face when they earn that certificate, it's really worth it. So I appreciate this opportunity you all given me, and I hope to continue with this program.
Thank you, sir, for all your hard work. So we appreciate it, and it has made a difference. So
Yes,
the next recognition is the Warren County Health Department. As most of you know, over the last year, the COVID pandemic has wreaked havoc across all of our departments, but it's really been the responsibility of our health department, not only to continue the services that they do on a regular basis, but also to be in charge of COVID testing and now with the rollout of the vaccine. So some counties were not well adapted at the vaccination process, and it was a slow start from the state. But with the new online portal to sign up, it's made it a lot easier. But I would like to recognize Andrea Fox, who's the director at our Warren County Health Department, and all of her staff, even including the guard and the soldiers that have been there helping with the testing. But it has been remarkable that we've been able to roll out the number of vaccines that we have. We were blessed because we got more vaccines than a lot of other counties did. And like I said, the beginning process was a little bit hard, but I get thank you calls nearly every day for people that are thanking us that we have the vaccines available. So I do want to give the health department a shout out and all the employees because it has been a remarkable journey, and this will continue on throughout, of course, most of this year until everybody is vaccinated. So those are my two recognitions for tonight.
Thank you, Executive Haley. Executive Haley, was you going to do the congenital heart defect awareness now or
I
later?
was, and that's what I was waiting for you to do that. You wanted to.
Okay.
We did have one proclamation. It's a little old now. It would have been a little more timely had we not had to reschedule. But February is a month that it recognizes many things, including Black History Month as well. But I did a proclamation upon request, and it's whereas the health and well-being of congenital heart patients is of paramount importance. And whereas each year in the United States, more than 40,000 babies are born with a congenital heart defect. And whereas the medical community has identified congenital heart defects as the leading cause of birth defect-related deaths. Whereas medical research can provide more identifiable means of the origins and symptoms of congenital heart defects. And whereas there is no cure for congenital heart defects, it's a lifelong disease requiring ongoing specialized care. Whereas fewer than 10% of adults with congenital heart disease are receiving the recommended care. And whereas it's crucial that individuals planning a family, fetal clinicians, obstetric physicians, pediatricians, and those in the medical field have a greater understanding of potential for congenital heart defects. And whereas Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week provides the opportunity for patients and families affected by this condition to share the experiences and knowledge so that the general public may be aware of how this defect affects our lives. So therefore, our County Executive Jimmy Haley did declare February 7th through the 14th as Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week, and encouraged everyone, of course, to look into the research and to observe this week in order to bring attention to the fact that it is still a disease that affects many children. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Haley. Next up is the elected officials department reports. And at this time, it yield back to the county executive, and with our newly voted on and approved rules where we basically try to hold our commissioners to 4 minutes twice each time they speak, I would ask if you would please try to keep it to at least 8 minutes on the executive report if possible.
Well, you've got my report. It was sent out. I don't have anything really to add to that, except that, we did have some inclement weather and some closures, and every department worked hard to keep its doors open, but we did have some closures. We didn't have the power outages that many of the counties around us did, so I want to give a shout out to all of our utility employees and emergency personnel and 911 folks, everybody who worked diligently during the weather and bad storm last week. So that's really all I have to add.
Thank you, Executive Haley. I would entertain a motion to accept the county executive's report.
I'll make that motion.
I second Commissioner
All
Stout.
right. We have a motion from Commissioner Sparkman and a second from Commissioner Stout to accept the county executive report. Anyone want to speak to that? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next is Director Justin Cotton with the Finance Department report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have my report. If anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to take them at this time. I would like to call your attention to the budget calendar at the end of my report, just to make sure everybody's aware that it's there.
Thank you, Director Cotton.
Motion approved, Mr.
Second, Daniel Owens.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Commissioner Rubley.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Rubley and a second from Commissioner Owens. Anyone want to speak to that motion?
Aye.
If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next is the Highway Department quarterly report. Director Levy Glenn.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the court, you have my report. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Motion to approve.
I second it. England.
We have a motion from Commissioner Stotts to accept the report, and we have a second from Commissioner England. Anyone want to speak to that? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And Mr. Chairman,
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner England.
I meant to catch you before you mentioned. I just wanted to give a shout out and a thank you to Levy Glenn and the Highway Department and all his staff for keeping our roads safe this last week.
Amen.
Yes. Yes. As always, they do a great job. All right, next item is the Sanitation Department Quarterly Report. Mr. Josh Roberts.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the court, you have my report. I'll be proud to answer any other questions at this time.
Move to adopt.
Prater.
We have a motion to accept the report from Gary Prater,
Second, Commissioner Helton.
and that was Commissioner Prater, and second from Commissioner England. Anyone want to speak to that motion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Next is the Sheriff's Department Quarterly Report. Sheriff Tommy Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the court. You should have a copy of my report. If you have any questions, I'm glad to try to answer them.
Move to adopt. Ron Lee.
We have a motion
Second,
to
Commissioner
adopt from
Stout.
Commissioner Lee and a second from Commissioner Stout. Anyone want to speak to that motion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. And next is Warren County Schools Quarterly Report, Director Grant Swallows.
Thank you, Commissioner Wiltshire. Thank you for allowing me to update you. Just as the others have said, you have a report submitted. Coming to you tonight from trying to watch our Pioneers win back-to-back district championships. Things are going really well right now, so I'll be really quick and let you know if there's any questions. I'd be happy to answer those.
Move to adopt.
Adopt.
We have a motion from Commissioner Stotts and a second from Commissioner Stout, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right.
All right. Anyone want to speak to that motion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, Pioneers.
Yes, definitely. All right, motion carries. Next is our committee reports, and the first one is Budget and Finance, Commissioner Rubley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Justin said, there is a copy of the approved budget calendar within your packet. You've probably seen it. And just another note, I want to make mention that it is nearing budget time, and it's time for all the department heads to begin their budget process. They need to get their preparation started anyway. And on the budget calendar, you'll see that in February, that's preparation time, but in March, we should have all those budgets submitted to the finance director, with the exception of the highway department, general purpose school fund, and the food service. But other than that, we need to try to get those budgets in March to Justin so we can start the review process. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Building and Grounds, Carl E. Bowden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, Building and Grounds has nothing to report.
Thank you. Next committee is Economic and Agricultural Development, Carl D. Bowden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll keep this short. We met February the 9th in the early voting room, and Ms. Hilda Lyda, she gave us a very detailed report of what the Extension Service was doing. They had several activities going. Despite the COVID, they seem to be very active and seem to be adapting very well. Those present was able to meet the new airport director, Mr. John Ball. He reported that the revenue for January was up 34%. We also met the new chamber president, Mr. Don Beasy. He seems to be a very intelligent man and will be great at that job from all indications. Also, Sarah Cantrell gave us a presentation on what the McMinnville Tourism Committee has been doing and is planning on giving us a little more information. She is also in hopes that the county might join them in this endeavor. Details will, as they come out, will be published to the full commission for their consideration. Also, we had a guest, John Flanders. He is the chairperson of the Ag Committee that was set up by Executive Haley that promotes agritourism. He also talked about the possibility of the county working with them to promote agriculture in Warren County. And a long-term goal of theirs, maybe 5 years down the road, is looking at maybe an agriculture expo center here in Warren County. Also, the date's not been set up, but plans for us to meet in April, probably be the second Tuesday in April. We're going to meet at the airport and we're going to tour the grounds. So when you get notified of that through email, anyone that wants to join us and look over the grounds and have a tour of the airport will be more than welcome, so that we can get more familiar with what they're doing out there. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolden, for that great update. Next is Education, Commissioner Brown.
I have nothing to report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Financial Management, Executive Haley.
Yes, we've got, we'll be scheduling another financial management meeting here soon. So we've been meeting pretty regularly in order to award bids into the surplus property, but I have nothing else to report.
Thank you. And with Health and Welfare, we have nothing to report at this time. Next is Highway and Bridge, Commissioner Prater.
Yeah, thank you so much. First thing I want to do is let you know how hard the Highway Department worked this past week. You know, they split it up in shifts and they were out there about 24 hours a day. And they used up a pretty good amount of the salt supply, but they've got that restocked. North Cut Cove is coming along fine. They got the side rails up today, and the USDA projects have all been closed out. And again, just want everybody to pat Levy on the back and give him a thumbs up for the job he's done. That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Prater. Next is Legislative Committee, Commissioner Brown.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The Legislative Committee will be reporting on a rule change in our agenda tonight, and that's all we need to report.
Thank you. Next, Policy and Personnel, Commissioner Savage. Commissioner Savage. All right, we'll come back to, okay, are you with us now, Commissioner Savage?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I can't figure out whether it's mute or unmute. Okay, Policy and Personnel has nothing to report this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Safety Committee, Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, Safety Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. County Corrections Partnership, Commissioner Watts.
Chairman Wiltshire, can I be recognized? I have a question for Commissioner Lee.
Yes, you may, Commissioner Stotts.
Thank you. Commissioner Lee, I had sent you an email on Friday, January the 22nd. I'm going to briefly read the email. I never received a response back from you, so I'm going to ask you to see if I can.
Hey, sir, I can tell you. Hey, listen. I don't do the emails, but the answer to your question is yes.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read the email.
Okay. That'd be fine.
Yeah, the question was, does the Safety Committee review updates from the Sheriff's Department that fall outside the budget? For example, are there discussions about rehabilitation programs that might be beneficial to the jail? Are there typically discussions around recidivism rates at the jail and programs that have been implemented to make improvements?
And once again, the answer is yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is the County Corrections Partnership, Commissioner Stotts.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. County Corrections Partnership has nothing to report this time.
Thank you. Next and last but not least, Redistricting Committee, Commissioner Randy England.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, we don't have nothing to report.
Thank you. And with that, we have no old business. We'll go into new business. The first item is resolution number 1-2021, acceptance of the CDBG grant application.
This is County Executive Haley. We've been working on this for a grant for the North Warren Volunteer Fire Department. It's a 70-30 match. North Warren has agreed to pay the 30%. I think they're looking at a used fire truck and some equipment. So we've been working with the Development District to get this application in. So that's the nature of Resolution 1-2021.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Rubley.
We have a motion to approve, Commissioner Scott
Second.
Rubley.
Garley.
We have a second from Commissioner Carl E. To approve this resolution. Anyone want to speak to that? If not, Lisa, call the roll, please.
Michael Bell,
Yes.
Carl D. Bolden,
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden,
Yes.
Carleen Brown,
Yes.
David Duncan,
Yes.
Randy England,
Yes.
Deborah Evans,
Yes.
Steve Glenn,
Yes.
Steve Melton,
Yes.
Robert Hennessy,
Yes.
Brad Hillis,
Yes.
Ron Lee,
Yes.
Gary Martin,
Yes.
Owens,
Yes.
Casey Owens,
Yes.
Gary Prater,
Yes.
Christy Ross,
Yes.
Yes.
Tommy Savage,
Yes.
Tyrone Sparkman,
Yes.
Joseph,
Joseph Stotts, yes.
Philip Stout,
Yes.
Cole Taylor,
Yes.
Wayne Wiltshire.
Yes.
Anyone to vote? 24 yes.
Motion passes 24 yes. Next item is resolution number 2-2021, amending the rules regulating the procedures of the Warren County Legislative Body.
Yes, sir. This is Commissioner Brown. This is resolution number 2/2021, a resolution amending the rules regulating the procedures of the Warren County Legislative Body. This is a change to reflect that, to name two committees to make sure that they are recognized in the rules document as standing committees, which is the County Corrections Partnership Committee and the Redistricting Committees. In the resolution, it states that we will be changing the words to make that correction, and that will appear under Rule 16 on page 10. So the new verbiage is also on this document that I don't think I need to read. However, I do need to, and I do want to make a motion that we accept this resolution to update our rules with amended changes to reflect the date of today as February the 23rd instead of February the 16th adopted. I so move.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Brown.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner
Second,
Prater.
Commissioner Prater.
Anyone want to speak to that motion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Next item is resolution number 3-2021, a resolution in support of Drug Dealer Liability Act lawsuit. Who wants to speak to that?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Rubley.
Commissioner Rubley.
If you would, I would like for Executive Haley to speak on that, if he wouldn't mind.
Executive Haley, would you please speak
Yes,
on this?
and Mr. Bratcher can as well, and he can give you the legal verbiage on it. But over 2 years, we've already passed one resolution enabling the district attorney to file this lawsuit in the name of Warren County and its residents in order to retrieve some revenue, I guess you might say, from the bankruptcy and the Drug Liability Act over the opioid crisis. And so there was a ruling that the district attorney had to withdraw that, and so the county then became the agent, and we have retained the same law firm that is pursuing this case that it has been for the last 2 years. And so the county's out. No, we're not obligated to pay any fees. Mr. Bratcher has worked on this resolution, so he may want to address this.
Mr. Chairman, I'm here to talk about this as well.
Yes.
And yes, that everything that Mr. Executive Haley said is correct. Several years ago, General Zavianis initiated the lawsuit against several pharmaceutical manufacturers under this drug dealer liability statute here we have in Tennessee. And in December of this past year, the Tennessee Supreme Court issued a ruling stating that all of the attorneys general of the state do not have standing to bring this lawsuit on behalf of the people in their communities. So it has now returned down to the lower court for the parties to be substituted, where each individual county has to step in place of where the district attorney had been. Essentially, it's just a paperwork change. It's a housekeeping thing. The firm here, Branstetter, Stranch, and Jennings out of Nashville, is the same firm that General Zavianis had employed all throughout this process, and they will be continuing with this case. However, this is a resolution we do have to pass in order to continue in this case and carry it forward. So that's the reason we're bringing it forward to the commission tonight, and that's why we need to pass this.
Thank you, Mr. Bratcher.
Commissioner Prater, so moves.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Prater and a second from Commissioner Stout. Anyone like to speak to that motion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item is Ben Lomond contracts for phone service.
Yes, this is County Executive Haley that went through the committees and financial management approved. It's a long stack of, a big stack of contracts. Mr. Cotton may want to discuss some of those contracts and the nature of them, but it's basically the same contract at the same rate that we had before, but it has to be updated for us to keep the service.
This is Commissioner Prater. I think we need to go ahead and approve this. I mean, support them because they support us.
Commissioner Hennessy, second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Prater, a second from Commissioner Hennessy. Would anybody like to speak to that? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Next is Amendment SF FY 2021-1. Transfer funds from convenience center, other salaries to truck drivers for an adjustment to maintain competitive wages.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Rubley.
Motion we approve. Mr. Stout.
I have to recognize Commissioner Rubley first.
I yield to the motion.
Okay, who made the motion?
Commissioner Stout.
All right, Commissioner Stout has made the motion.
Second, Commissioner Brown.
We have a second from Commissioner Brown. Would anybody like to speak to that motion?
Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Taylor.
All right, Commissioner Taylor.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Hopefully I won't go to lagging like normal. Today I took some time this morning and I called 4 different sanitation departments. I called Rutherford County, I called Bedford County, I called Coffee County, and I also called White County. I'm not going to say that our men are not underpaid a little bit. Compared to Rutherford and Bedford, we are for sure. But you also got to understand that price of living is a lot more in Rutherford and Bedford County than it is in Warren County. Speaking with those directors, all of them were very willing to tell me anything I wanted to know. I think Josh is doing a phenomenal job, and I think our truck drivers, I'm not going to say they don't deserve a raise. I'd like to see them get one, but the timing is the problem with me. And every director that I spoke with today, all of them said the same thing. They said, you never want to start giving raises in the middle of a calendar year. They said that's asking for a revolving door, revolving around all the other directors. And that's my only problem that I've got with the situation. I'm not saying that our guys don't need a raise and that we probably should get one, but timing is where it's at for me. I feel like a raise ought to be at budget time. They ought to come and ask for us at budget time. And that's every director I spoke with today said the same thing. And that made me feel better about my decision of where I stand with this tonight. I just wanted to let all the commission know that I did take the time to call some different sanitation directors, and that's where I stood. I know out of the 5 people counting us, we were number 4 on the list of pay. White County was actually the lowest, they top out at $13.82 an hour for their truck drivers. I know Rutherford County was starting people out at $17 an hour with maybe a minimum of 2 years of experience of driving. But like the director said, he said, but you got to understand something, son. He said, you know, it costs $1,800 a month to rent an apartment here compared to $800 a month in Warren County. And he said, so, you know, you got to figure everything in the price of living. So I just wanted that to be known. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Steve Glenn.
All right, Commissioner
Mr.
Glenn.
Okay. Hey, listen, I've got some averages on ours. Warren County Highway Department, truck drivers, $19. Coffee County, $17. DeKalb County, $17. Wilson County, $17. There's no reason we shouldn't pass this tonight. If we don't, we done lost 2 drivers. We could lose some more. Hey, just Southern Central, $18. Southern Transport's $22. There's no reason for, and besides, this is not out of our budget. It's out of his budget, and he expected to turn about $200,000 back in end of this fiscal year. So there's no reason. Look who we serve. We serve 12 convenience centers. 10. We serve Warren County schools, central office, EMS, animal control, Warren County jail, airport, bus shed, health department, administration building, senior citizen, Centertown and Marshall. I don't see no reason we shouldn't pass this. It should be simple, and let's move on with it, because it's not costing the county a penny. It's a service that we owe them, and Josh is doing a great job, and we shouldn't hold him back. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Prater.
I sort of agree with Stevie there. He's done lost 2 truck drivers, and he's hard a 68-year-old out there, and I think he's done turned over a van or something. These truck drivers that's got pretty good records can go anywhere and make a lot more money than what they're making. And he's got the money in his budget, and you need a truck driver that's going to stay with you. You don't need to be R1 and making 14, and just as soon as he finds another job making 17 or 18, he's going to quit you. So let's go ahead and give them a little raise to keep them, because I'm going to tell you something. I don't want garbage piled up around, you know. I mean, and that's a big deal. Garbage is a big deal. And I know it's in the middle of the budget year. It's not really in the middle. It's getting on down there a little bit, but he's got the money. And I know we're probably opening up a can of worms, but we're dealing with garbage here, and we don't want it piled up, because Josh can't do everything by himself, and he is doing a good job, and that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Evans.
I'm on the Health and Welfare Committee, along with you, Chairman Welcher, and others. And I feel like probably would all agree with me. Director Roberts has shown his loyalty and his dedication to cutting corners everywhere that he can, but doing it safely. And he knows, as a manager, the morale of his workers is important, and he respects them. He has shown us, since he took over, that he's frugal. He's very cautious with taxpayer money. He has turned in an abundance of money every year that he's managed to save. And I really think we should give him this request, because he's there with these workers, and he knows that he's losing workers constantly to higher paying jobs. And as Commissioner Prater said, being on health and welfare, garbage is a health hazard, as well as it will harm businesses. And several commissioners and our taxpayers alone own businesses, and no one wants trash piling up. And as I understand right now, Director Roberts is having to drive because he's down to 2 drivers. And he's not asking for a lot. He's asking to give them a living wage. So I fully support it, and I hope everyone does. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Ross.
Yes, at the meeting where Mr. Roberts come and spoke to us, I agree. I don't like giving raises middle of the budget time or anything outside of the budget time, whether it's the middle or toward the end. However, this is a situation of potential loss of service. So this to me is a horse of a different color. If he's got 2 people ready to retire, he's trying to run a truck himself. If he can't find people to work for that wage, and like Mr. Prater said, give him something that he can pay them. We're going to have an employee that stays there long term instead of turning over. I don't think anybody wants to see us be in a place where we have to shut down a convenience center. And for that, I'm in favor of supporting Mr. Roberts and within his budget to move funds around to keep us in service. Thank you.
Mr. Wiltshire, can I speak?
Commissioner Sparkman.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Sparkman, I believe someone spoke before you. Which commissioner was that?
Commissioner Rubley.
Was it Commissioner Rubley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I had a long talk with Director Roberts, and as first off, I'd like to say, because it hasn't been said yet, congratulations. Director Roberts is a brand new dad, and
Yeah, amen.
That's the beginning of a long, enjoyable journey, hopefully. But like I said, I had a long discussion with Director Roberts, and I do agree there is a deficiency there. The pay is not where it needs to be with the drivers. But as I expressed to Director Roberts, where we are right now, we're basically 2 months from submitting budgets. And we just addressed the ambulance service and a bonus, and it would be pretty hypocritical of me to deny Director Denny a bonus when we're standing here right now voting for a raise. And one thing I'd like to add is we have been, I've been hearing a lot of hypotheticals thrown around tonight, and the fact that we raise the pay out there $2 or $4 or $6 doesn't mean that the employees are going to come. I think all the private business owners that are sitting here tonight know that it's a challenge, no matter what the pay is right now, to have workers come and good workers. And I'm not saying that will entice more workers, but I am saying that still is a hypothetical. We don't know if people are going to come to work for $2 more an hour. But I did tell Director Roberts that I wanted to see that they got a pay increase, but I wanted to do it at budget time. And I'll reiterate what Commissioner Taylor had passed on, and that's the fact that some of the directors that he spoke to today said that this is just something that you don't address mid-budget. When we do this, and we're going to open up a Pandora's box. We're going to have people coming from every direction saying, why can't I, why didn't I? And especially Director Denny, and it'd be well justified. But we're 2 months away, and I've not talked to anybody on budget and finance. We had the discussion, and those on budget and finance, I didn't hear anybody say that he doesn't deserve a pay increase, but timing is the issue. We're 2 months from budget submittals, and I think we'd be well served. And I think in the future we'll be glad that we waited, because if we don't, we're looking at different departments that are going to be addressing and requesting throughout the year. This is going to be something that's going to happen just every little bit if we start it now. And like I say, I appreciate Director Roberts. I think he's doing a great job, and I know he's facing some challenges right now, being shorthanded. But like I say, we intend to work on that. As for me, I intend to encourage the Budget Finance Committee when budget time comes that we need to get this up there where it needs to be. But right now, it's just not the time for me. And I yield back. Thank you.
Commissioner Wiltshire, can I speak?
I'm sorry, which commissioner is this?
Joseph.
Yes, Commissioner Stotts.
Yeah, just a couple quick things. I spoke to Josh today. He had called me, and after I did, I also reached out to several people that I know as well that are past and or present CDL drivers that have drove for the city, for the county, or other private organizations. And, the feedback I got from them is similar to what Commissioner Taylor described earlier. I mean, it, very well, like he described, could very well be that, our numbers are off a little bit and we need to look at possibly doing that at some point. However, factoring in cost of living, factoring in what Commissioner Rubley mentioned about budget time, factoring in, and Commissioner Rubley, correct me if I'm wrong, the several months ago, county employees did not receive their raise this year, right? Is that correct, Commissioner Rubley?
That is correct.
So factoring in that, along with what Commissioner Rubley also mentioned about EMS workers as well, I don't think the timing is good on it right now. I do also want to say a couple more things. I agree with what Commissioner Prater said, that the need is there, and we need to do what we can to support Josh. Yeah, that'll be it for now. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Commissioner Stout.
Yes, Commissioner Stout.
Okay. I went a couple of weeks ago and I rode that truck with Josh, and it was an eye opener for me to see what the process it is for them to get that moved from one place to another, and the cleanup they have to do, and it was an eye opener for me for the job they have to do.
Mr. Chairman, this is Steve Glenn.
Yes, Commissioner Glenn.
Hey, when is the timing going to be right? We keep saying he needs it, but when? The timing ain't right. The timing is right now. We done lost 2 drivers. How many more we're going to have to do? We could shut down some convenience centers or some other things. And we just need to go ahead and give it to him and move on. Like I say, it's nothing out of the county. It's his budget. He's still going to turn money in. It shouldn't affect nothing. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Brown.
I'll bring in first.
Yes, Commissioner Sparkman, please.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Sparkman.
Yes, he's got it in his budget. I'd say we go ahead and do it. I'm on vote with it. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Brown.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just want to also support what Mr. Glenn was just saying about the timing. And I truly understand timing as far as proposing budgets, budgeting pay raises. But the timing right now has gone from a budget schedule to an immediate need. Trying to operate at a lower pay scale than what is out there within our own community is such a challenge for Josh in hiring these folks. And now that he has got 2 extra openings, he has something to add to his offer. And as Mr. Rubley said, there's no guarantee but there is absolutely no guarantee if you don't have something to raise and be competitive with. This is only $2. He absolutely has this in his budget. Earlier, Mr. Stott said something about county employees not getting raises. The budget that was proposed did have in there no additional raises for county employees, but people who are elected officials chose to give their employees raises, and they went ahead and did it and didn't have to go through this process because they're elected officials. They can make those changes within their budget. Mr. Roberts has put together information that he has gone through these committees, and he's justified a tremendous need that he has to give these raises, and he has it in his budget. So I certainly think that it's time to support him. You say 2 months our budgets will be in, it could be 6 months before it's approved, because we're going to be looking at July or August before we vote on a budget. So now that's even more time. And if we have to close convenience centers, we're going to go backwards. We're going to have trash outside sitting at places. We're going to all have to become a convenience center at our own homes to hold our trash. because we won't be able to, have a place to take it until we're on a rotating schedule. I think the timing is now, because the timing has revealed a tremendous need that he has. And all of our pay scales, all of this, Mr. Britton is in the process of reviewing every single department and coming back to us for pay scale. I don't know exactly where he is at that, but hopefully his timing will be when it's budget time. So when all the pay increase requests come again, we'll have the information to make a decision. I strongly support Mr. Roberts' request, and I hope the rest of the commissioners will consider that also. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Carl D. Bolden.
Yes, sir. I can tell by the way that the conversation's going, how this vote's going to go. No doubt in my mind that his truck drivers need a raise, but Mr. Denny, it's been named several times that he has it in his budget. Mr. Roberts does have this money in his budget, but it comes from a position that has not been filled. Mr. Denning came to the financial management, and it didn't come to full commission. It died at financial management, never was brought to us. But the money that he proposed to give his $750 bonus to was from money that he actually saved. So I can't support one and never got to vote because I don't want to leave the ambulance service out there for nothing. So I hope this is appropriate. I want to amend the motion. I hope I can get a second. I want to amend the motion that also in this, that the $750 bonus proposed by Mr. Denning, also he can give to his employees.
Mr. Chairman, Michael Bell seconded.
I second that. I second that.
All right, Commissioner Carl D. Bolden, I need to hear your motion again.
Okay, my motion is that attached to this amendment, SFFY 2021-1 is also the $750 bonus proposed by Mr. Denny through the ambulance service also passes with this, that he's allowed to give his employees that $750 bonus. If anybody deserves one, it's them.
Second by Commissioner Michael Bell.
All right, we had a motion to amend this motion by Commissioner Carl D. Bolden, seconded by Commissioner Mike Bell. Anyone want to speak to that motion?
Commissioner Prater.
Commissioner Prater.
So this is going to pass Josh's raise for his truck drivers, but we're going to give a $750 bonus to the ambulance guys.
If this motion passes.
Is that correct?
If this motion passes,
okay,
then we'll be back
all right
on the original
That's
motion.
what I was wanting to know.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
And to the motion.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes, Commissioner Brown.
how much money are we talking about for the $750 total?
Commissioner Rubley, do you know that figure off the top of your head?
I do not, Commissioner Wiltshire. I would defer that to the finance director, and I don't know if Justin would have that information with him tonight.
Right.
Are there 10, do you know how many employees there are? Not that it matters. I mean, it won't be that much money, but I was just wondering.
All right,
Mr. Chairman.
Hillis, I believe you spoke more than 12.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, yes, Commissioner Hillis.
Commissioner, I don't think anyone is trying to say the ambulance service doesn't deserve their bonus. I feel like they do. The thing here is, I don't know if a lot of people have took into account, because of COVID, so many more people, so many kids are at home because they hadn't went to school. I mean, Josh is hauling more trash with half the people. I respect the budget and finance committee's decision on the timing. It's a tough call either way. It's a tough vote, but Josh, it's a huge liability when you turn a man loose in a county truck hauling trash, and he's got to hire respectable, dependable people. It is bad timing, but it's going to be worse timing if he has to cut services. And an ambulance driver or an EMT, there's no one no more important if you're in a wreck or having an emergency, but they're not talking about cutting services. And that's to me, that's the tipping point. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner England.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate Mr. Bolden adding the ambulance service in this. I run some figures here and spoke with Mr. Denning myself, and I think the total, Mr. Denning, to answer Miss Carlene Brown's question, it's going to be around $27,500, maybe some change. I may be off a few $100s one way or the other. So that's what we're looking at. When this conversation started, it was about sanitation, and we had a budget and finance committee meeting, and it failed our committee 4-1. And the reason is the timing, but also, we had set at the same spot and told Preston basically the same thing. Now, I'm not saying one is worse than the other. They're both good. Preston has done an outstanding job, and Josh, sure enough, has done an outstanding job. So I just want it to be known that if we do pass that, I wanted to let you know that it is about a $27,500, like I say, give or take a little bit there.
Mr.
Mr. Chairman,
Chairman.
Casey Owens.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Prater.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Owens was first. Go ahead, Commissioner Owens.
Yes, I was looking at the minutes from that meeting where the bonus was proposed. And Mr. England, you said 29,000. What I have in the minutes is a total of 31,500 because it was a 750 for full-time and 375 for part-time. So I don't know if that matters with this amended motion that Commissioner Bolden made or not, including the part-time employees. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm trying to find who's speaking
This
here.
is Finance Director Cotton.
All right, Director Cotton.
Both of them are correct, but the total of the bonus for the ambulance service with retirements and benefits, if we want to know the total cost, is $37,400. So it's about it's $27,750 for full time, $4,125 for part time, plus Social Security and retirement. So it comes to $37,400. Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I will remind everybody, please, if you've already spoke twice, you're not able to speak again until everyone has had an opportunity. Anyone else want to discuss the motion that we have on the table now?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Savage.
I'd like to make it plain that if this does pass, that this comes out of the ambulance services, the transfer from that's coming out of their money. It's not going to come from the general fund. It's going to be just like Mr. Roberts' money will come as money is already in his fund. It'll be transferred.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Prater.
Commissioner Prater, have you spoke twice already on this?
I spoke. Yeah, I have.
Okay.
I'm just going to call for the question. Let's vote on it.
All right. We have a call for the question, the previous question. I'll second it. Motion from Commissioner Prater, seconded by myself, Commissioner Wiltshire. Call for the previous question to end debate. This will be a vote, and it will have to be a 2/3 vote. We'll try a voice vote first. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So there's no more debate. We'll be on the second motion, which is the amended motion presented by Carl D. Bolden, which is to add to this amendment the bonus that Director Denny proposed for the EMT service. for his employees. All
Mr.
right.
Chairman, Casey Owens.
Yes, Commissioner Owens.
With this motion, does this include the 350 for the part-time employees as well?
Yes.
Yes, that is, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Bowden, that is what you were referring to was the bonuses that were proposed in with the EMT bonuses.
Yes, it would be Director Denny's, exactly what he proposed then. And like Tommy said, it's all coming out of his budget, just like I've heard that it's coming out of Josh's multiple times. It's not costing the county any extra money. He has the money.
So we're going to vote on this motion, which is an amendment to the original motion. And if we could, I'd like to have Lisa call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wiltshire,
Yes, Commissioner Stotts.
would you mind to restate specifically what we're voting on, just to clarify for everyone?
The motion is to add the bonuses that were to come out of the EMT budget for all the staff at the EMT service proposed by Director Denny. If add it to this amendment concerning the sanitation department wage adjustment.
Thank you.
All right, Lisa, call the roll, please.
Michael Bell,
Yes.
Carl D. Bolden,
Yes.
Bolden,
Yes.
Carleen Brown,
Yes.
David Dunlap,
Yeah.
Randy
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Steve Glenn,
Yes.
Stephen Helton,
Yes.
Robert Hennessy,
Yes.
Brad Hillis,
Yes.
Ron Lee,
Yes.
Gary Martin,
Yes.
Daniel Owens,
Yes.
Casey Owens,
Yes.
Gary Prater,
Yes.
Chris Ross,
Yes.
Scott Ruble,
No.
Tommy Savage,
No.
Tyrone Spartman,
No.
Joseph Scott,
No.
Philip Stout,
Yes.
Cole Taylor,
No.
Wiltshire.
No.
Anyone want to change their vote? All right, 18 yes, 6 no.
All right, motion passes 18 yes. Now we're back on the original motion, which is the amendment with the inclusion of the bonuses for the EMT proposed by Director Denny. Lisa, will you call the roll, please?
Michael Bell,
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden,
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden,
Yes.
Carleen Brown,
Yes.
David Dunlap,
Yes.
Randy England,
Yes.
Deborah Evans,
Yes.
Steve Glenn,
Yes.
Stephen Helton,
Yes.
Robert Hennessy,
Yes.
Brad Hillis,
Yes.
Ron Lee,
Yes.
Gary Martin,
Yes.
Daniel Owens,
Yes.
Casey Owens,
Yes.
Gary Prater,
Yes.
Christy Ross,
Yes.
Scott Ruble,
No.
Tommy Savage,
No.
Tyler Hartman,
No.
Joseph Stotts,
No.
Philip Stout,
Yes.
Cole Taylor,
No.
Blaine Wiltshire.
No.
Anyone want to change their vote? 18 yes, 6 no.
All right, motion passes. Amendment GPFY 2021-5, establish line items for tech connectivity and remote technology grants. Director Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a budget amendment to establish line items for some COVID money that the GP school system is receiving. It's 100% pass-through money. It's actually reimbursement for expenses incurred by federal programs, but it is being passed through GP at the behest of State Department of Education.
So moved.
Money.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sparkman.
Second, Commissioner Hennessy.
Commissioner Owens, were you trying to second that?
Yes.
All right, second from Commissioner. Anyone want to speak to that motion? Mr. Bretcher, would this need to be a voice vote?
You need to do a roll call.
All right, thank you. Roll call, please, Lisa.
Michael Bell,
Yes.
Carl D. Bolden,
Yes.
Carl E. Bolden,
Yes.
Carleen Brown,
Yes.
David Dunlap,
Yes.
Randy England,
Yes.
Deborah Evans,
Yes.
Steve Glenn,
Yes.
Stephen Helton,
Yes.
Robert Hennessy,
Yes.
Brad Hillis,
Yes.
Ron Lee,
Yes.
Gary Martin,
Yes.
Daniel Owens,
Yes.
Casey Owens,
Yes.
Gary Prater,
Yes.
Christy Ross,
Yes.
Scott Ruble,
Yes.
Tommy Savage,
Yes.
Tyrone Spartman,
Yes.
Joseph Stotts,
Yes.
Philip Stout,
Yes.
Cole Taylor,
Yes.
Blaine Wiltshire.
Yes.
Anyone want to change their vote? 24 yes.
All right, motion passes 24 yes. Next item is the proposal that was put on the docket by Commissioner Hennessy to rescind by the commission, the resolution presented by our state rep, Janice Boland. Commissioner Hennessy, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairperson Wiltshire. I appreciate it. First of all, I'd like to apologize to Commissioner England, Rubley, Sparkman, Hillis, and Stotts. I didn't have an opportunity to speak to each and every one of you to explain what the motion is. I was able to reach out to the balance of the commissioners to do this. Also, introducing a motion on the evening of the commission meeting. Not a big fan of that, but this is a very time-sensitive matter. This bill was introduced on the 11th. It passed on first consideration on that same day, and just yesterday, it passed on second consideration to the Senate State and Local Government Committee. I've had a lot of people across the county reach out to me as their commissioner that were actively against eliminating early voting, and the general consensus throughout the conversation I had with the commissioners were all in support of this motion, simply because early voting and the opportunity that affords our county and the residents is something that everybody feels like that is important and would like to keep. Therefore, I make a motion to rescind State Senator Janice Bowen's bill SB 1510, an act to amend Tennessee Code annotated Title II relative to voting as described. I could go into the language of the whole vote, but I'm going to simplify this on this motion. Be it known the legislative body of Warren County is in total disagreement with Bill SB 1510, abolishing early voting. That will be my motion.
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Ross. After the motion from Commissioner Hennessy, would anybody like to speak to that motion? All right.
I'd like to speak, Commissioner Wiltshire, if I could.
All right, Commissioner Stotts.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention to Commissioner Hennessy that I would have liked to have had the opportunity to speak with you further about this before the vote tonight, to get a little bit more information from you about it. I did read about the bill. I'm aware of the bill. However, I would like to spoke to you a little bit about this tonight before we voted. And also, again, I know you mentioned bringing things up at the last minute, which you've made several comments about that in the past and the need for us not to do that. So, having said that, just kind of throwing that out there, but here we are doing it. So, but anyways, but I would like to speak with you further about it, but we're at the vote. So here we are. Thank you.
Mr. Chairperson, if I may address Mr. Stott's concerns.
Yes, Commissioner Hennessy.
I did make a point that this is not typical. I agree with him wholeheartedly on his concerns about bringing forth a motion. But again, this is a very time-sensitive issue that affects every citizen of this county in this measure. And therefore, that's why I felt like there was a sense of urgency to do this. And I certainly appreciate your comments, Mr. Stotts, just the same. I yield the floor to the chairperson.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to the motion before we vote?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Rubley.
Yes, Commissioner Rubley.
This is a question for Commissioner Hennessy, just to clarify, and I support this, but my question is, I think in the original reading, he said that we would rescind this legislation, but just to clarify, the only thing that we can do here, and I think he said that we strongly oppose, but if he could clarify that motion again, because we don't have any legal authority to override anything they're doing, basically is what we're saying, is sending a message that we're against it. So if he could please clarify that.
That is correct. And I know that he spoke more than twice, but Commissioner Hennessy, I would like you to clarify that, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Rubley, for bringing that out. The clarification on this, and you're exactly right, there's not anything that we can actually do to control what the legislative body of the state does, other than the fact, as a collective group, just sending a message to Senator Bowen that the community of Warren County does not support this. And basically, that's what this motion does. If you would like, I could go into details exactly what the language is on her bill, if that would help clarification. If not, the motion is simply this: a motion to rescind Senator Bowen's bill, and which is an act of the Tennessee Code annotated, Title II, relative to the voting. Be it known that the legislative body of Warren County is in total disagreement with Bill SB 1510, abolishing early voting. That's what the motion is on the floor.
Right,
if there's anything else, I'd be happy.
Else want to speak to the motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Rubley one more time. That was the problem that I had with it. I do support it, but I think I'd like to ask legal, because the first sentence that Mr. Hennessy had read was to rescind Senator Bowen's bill. If Mr. Bratcher would speak to that, please. I just don't want it to look like we're trying to take authority, and I know we can't, but just want to make sure that it's clear before we vote on it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Bratcher.
I'd be happy to speak on that. Commissioner Rubley's concerns are valid. It's correct that we cannot control the General Assembly. The appropriate way to characterize this would be that the County Commission requests that Senator Bowling rescind her bill on the basis that we oppose it, and we would request her withdrawing it.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to amend this resolution saying that the County Commission of Warren County, Tennessee asks that Senator Bowling rescind her bill to stop the early voting in Warren County, and that first sentence only. But that's what I would like to say, that we request that she rescind her bill.
All right, I'll second that. But anybody want to speak to that motion? That is an amendment to the original motion. All right. If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any other? All right, we're back on the original motion, which is now amended to say that the county commission will ask Senator Bowling to rescind her motion or resolution for early voting. Am I correct on that, Commissioner Rubley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we're back onto that motion. Anyone else want to speak to that motion before we vote? All right, if not, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any? All right, that motion carries. And Commissioner Rubley, you and Commissioner Hennessy may need to get with Lisa to make sure we're clear on the wording of this. All right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to make clear, I was not nitpicking the commissioner. I just want to make sure that we had that properly worded.
All right, thank you.
Duly noted, Commissioner Rubley. Thank you.
All right, next item is approval of notaries.
Make a motion we approve. Commissioner Stout.
Commissioner Stout.
Yes. I make a motion we approve.
Right.
The notary.
I'll second it. Second. Anyone want to speak to that motion? In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. And I have one thing real quick here. Me and Commissioner Ross have spoke about the nonprofit review, which will be coming up in a few months. And I'll show you a picture. Pardon my beard. But there is a stack of the applications for the nonprofit review. There's a lot of them, and what we want to do is simplify it going forward as we prepare for the budget time this year. And I'm going to request a simpler, maybe one-page form that we ask the nonprofits to send to us so that we can send it out to all commissioners to review. And then hopefully starting next month, have as many as 10 of those nonprofits attend our meeting, whether it's Zoom or in person, and allow them to have 2 to 3 minutes to briefly describe what their nonprofit does and what they do with the money that we are able to donate to them. Is there any other announcements?
Mr. Chairman, Executive Haley does have some announcements.
Okay, I'm sorry, Executive Haley, go ahead with the announcements.
I do want to recognize that our court officer, Mr. Philip Young, has decided to retire. So he's turned in his retirement, so he will no longer be serving as our court officer. We're hoping to be back in person, hybrid, some sort of meeting next month if all goes well. We're getting technology installed in the courtroom, so hopefully that's going to go well. I did want to give a shout out to Josh and Ashley Roberts, their new son, Race Warren, who was born this last Monday. Health Department wanted me to announce that COVID testing has now been reduced from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock Monday through Friday because of the increase in vaccinations. The Senior Center wanted me to announce they will be doing a clinic at the Senior Center on Monday, March 1st, beginning at 8:30. You don't have to go to the online portal. You need to call Lana Whitlock, the director, at 473-6559. And my last announcement is I have appointed Danny Martin and Kevin Dunlap to the Warren Utility Board of Directors, and I want that entered into the minutes. But other than that, I have no more announcements, except next month I will be recognizing TDOT and the Highway Department, and also McMinnville Public Works for their tireless efforts during our winter storm last week.
Executive Haley.
Mr. Chairman.
Executive Haley, did you state that we would hopefully be able to possibly to meet next month in person?
We're going to try to see what we can do. We're getting the technology installed. It may not be ready. I don't have an IT person, so we're working around schedules, but we're hoping to. We'll just see how it works.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Lee.
Commissioner Ron Lee. Yes, sir. I've got something I want to direct to you, sir.
Yes,
At
sir.
the very beginning of this meeting tonight, I believe that you talked about civility and being kind to one another.
Yes, sir.
Now, one of our commissioners, and you praised him to high heaven, our parliamentarian, called me out for not replying to an email. I don't do emails. Mr. Stotts has my phone number and has called me before. So if he's got the wherewithal to call me and ask me a question, I'll be glad to answer him. If he doesn't, then he just needs to shut his mouth. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, man.
Yes, Commissioner Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm so glad that we passed the resolution about Senator Boland's bill, and it passed unanimous. And she's a great friend, but I would like for this to be emailed to her as soon as we get the wording all down final. I would like for it to be emailed to her as soon as possible to let her know how we feel. I think that doing away with early voting would be doing a huge injustice to our voters, especially our senior citizens that take advantage of early voting. I think you would see the voting cut big time if we did away with early voting. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may be recognized.
Yes, Commissioner Stotts.
First of all, I'd like to say that the reason why I asked Commissioner Lee the question I did tonight is because he didn't respond to the email that I sent out. Yes, I do have his number. That's correct. But I did send him an email. He didn't respond. And I felt like tonight that there was a possibility we were going to vote on an item that I needed further information about. So that's why I followed up and asked him the question about the email. Secondly, there is no place in this courtroom or in any committee meeting for any commissioner to be telling any other commissioner to shut up or to be quiet or using derogatory language like was just used just now by Mr. Lee in this commission meeting. It has been used by him in previous meetings of the County Correction Partnership toward Commissioner Hilton. It should not be tolerated. I will, after the fact, now call a point of order towards Commissioner Lee with using for his language that he's just used in his court. And I'll wait your ruling on his statement he just made. But that language has absolutely no place in county business. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stotts. And as a District 4 Commissioner, I completely 100% agree with you. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I got one announcement.
Mr. Chairman, I have one announcement.
Yes, Commissioner Bell.
I'd like to announce that the Warren County Pioneers are district tournament champions.
Thank you.
Woohoo!
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Rubley, I have one more announcement, please.
Yes, Commissioner Rubley.
I have been talking with Director Swallows for the past weeks and got some really good news as far as CARES Act money goes. It appears that if everything is approved, that the school system will be receiving some CARES Act money in the amount of approximately $8.3 million. And in talking with Director Swallows and with his correspondence with the school board, it appears that their intentions are to apply this funding to some of the capital projects at various campuses around the county that have been in need of some improvements. I know middle school is one in particular, East Side possibly Centertown, but there's some approvals pending, but they're awaiting that, but they're going to have to move really fast on it because the deadlines are really short. I mean, the parameters are going to be testing the ability of these committees to work. But like I say, just wanted to put that out there. Looks like it's going to be about $8.3 million, and that's going to be not only a great help to the school board and school system, but it's also going to be a weight that the commission and the county's not going to have to carry with these capital projects. Looks like they're going to be able to fund several of those themselves. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Commissioner England to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Ross seconded that motion. Anyone want to speak to that motion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?